this is Stephanie from Contori Freya on YouTube, and this is my channel where I talk about my projects, either knitting, spinning, or quilting, and this is the October update. So last month I talked about going to England, and so I am back, and things have kind of been hectic this month because I'm also trying to get a quilt top finished, which I'll talk a little bit at the end of all this. I'm just trying to finish it this month and then send it out for quilting just to make sure it's ready for Christmas. But first, let's kind of start off with my knitting projects, some of my finished projects. So last time we talked, I was hoping to get a pair of socks done for England, and I'm happy to say that I got them done a couple of days before I went, and they are the Walk in the Woods socks by Safiyyah Talley. And of course I kind of went over the yarn that I used for them last time, but the yellow one is the false fall stitched together from a woman that used to dye in LA, then moved to Illinois. Now she's not going to be dyeing anymore. And then the second color, which is the purple here, is the Ursula 365 on sock by Malabirgo. And with this one, I decided to use the purple on the toe, but I also combined like a small nylon thread with it just to make sure I had a little bit of reinforcement on the toe, so that when it was being worn, it hopefully wouldn't create a hole right away. And actually, these, I don't know if they're quite felting per se, but or if it's the nylon in it, but it still has a very nice soft texture. It is holding up. The yellow is also holding up, though I noticed that as I was wearing them, the green in this yellow tends to run a little bit as you're wearing it. These have been through the washer twice. I do hang them on my sock octopus that I have just to let them dry, but so far they've held up to the washer, which is good. And they were really nice and cozy to wear around in England, so I got those done. I'm very happy with them. The tighter gauge, because I used a smaller size needle on these, I used one, which is the 2.25 millimeter, I believe. Oh, sorry, the 1.25 millimeter needle. I think that really helped with everything. And when I was originally casting off the second sock, I was just doing a regular cast off, and that was actually too tight. I couldn't get my foot in. So I did a stretchy bind off, and it is quite a bit stretchy. Like the one that I originally casted on, I think I should have just tried to do a regular cast on, but looser. I think I was doing it a little too tight, but as you can see, that really stretches, but they still held up. They actually stayed up, which is good. So I am quite happy with them. And those are the finished socks with the broken seed stitch here and here on them. I did use a smooth toe or a curvy toe, but then I used like a regular afterthought heel, so they're a little pointy, which kind of like when I see them off of my foot, I'm like, I don't really like that, but once they're on the foot, you can't really notice. And it probably gave me like a little bit more room on this sock as well, just in case they were a little too short. But those are done. So I was happy with those. And then for my trip, I did take a shawl pattern on the trip with me. I did not do the "May I please borrow this" pattern. I decided to go with another pattern that had been sitting in my queue for years. It was also a free pattern. It's called Nurmilintu by Heidi and it's, I'm not remembering its Finnish, but basically the name Nurmilintu means like is an old lullaby. In Finnish it says Nuku Nuku Nurmilintu, which means sleep sleep little bird. So, and that's the little clip that's snipped out that she put on her pattern just to like give you reference for it. So honestly, because I was just looking at all these other patterns, I'm like, I don't think this is really going to fit the yarn that I'm trying to use. I ended up thinking, okay, this will be the most probably flattering way to show off this yarn, plus have like a little bit of lace detail in it, because I was craving to do a little bit of lace. Of course, I'll probably eat those words a little bit later now, but nonetheless, this was This is like, now we're going on to my whips in progress. So I was hoping, you know, to get a lot of the knitting done in England. And I got like to the second color in England, but I noticed that I only went on like a few longer train trips, and I noticed with the train trips is that they don't really have a lot of airflow in the cars themselves, and I kind of get like car sick, so I couldn't really like focus on anything while I was sitting in those cars, even though there was like 45 minutes to like over an hour of sitting in those cars. Like at one point on the last car trip, like back to London, I thought I was gonna barf. It was like really bad. So unfortunately I didn't get a lot of knitting done in England just because we were walking everywhere. We just packed our days full of everything, so I only got so much done. Most of it was done in airports, honestly. And then a lot of this was done at home because when I got home from England, I had a small cold. It wasn't COVID or anything, and so I had to stay home away from work for a couple of days until after the 5-day period for a cold. So I ended up resting and getting over jet lag and just knitting a lot. So without further ado, this one is going to be a lot of information, I think, being thrown at you guys, so I apologize, but I'm trying to be organized about it. I have notes on it, so you might see me glancing down at them just because I want to be as accurate as possible with this. But originally in the last video that I did, I was talking about how I was planning to use yarn from a yarn tasting back in spring, and I have chosen those yarns. It was from the summer yarn tasting, and the company that we were tasting from was Berroco yarns. They're very common and popular, I think, and I think they make a pretty good product. I've done some knitted items with a couple of their different yarns, and they've held up really well. I've yet to throw it into a washing machine because apparently I can do that with the vintage yarn that I bought for a sweater. I could throw it into a washing machine. I just haven't done that yet. But it's held up really well. I've used it quite a few times. So here we go. So let's start off. So this is where I'm at. I am almost done with this shawl, but I'll try and show you the range of colors from top to bottom all the way down to here, the little tail. So basically I just have to do one more round of lace up here, and it's kind of like just this nice little simple pattern up here, though because I haven't put in stitch markers, I've had to rip back a couple of times because I messed up one stitch here and there while I was watching TV. I was trying to watch like House of Dragons while knitting, and honestly that's probably not the smartest idea if you're trying to continually watch a thing that has some plot to it, you know, and you're trying to keep track of what's going on in the show, especially if you haven't read the books. I've not read the books, I know, shame on me. So I just have to do one more row or one more round of the lace up here, and then I'll be able to bind off. It has an interesting bind off where you like cast on a couple of stitches and then cast on a couple of stitches in the middle, and then you cast off like 5. It's like you cast on 2, cast off 5, and it kind of makes a little like ripple effect on that edge of the lace, which I think will be nice. Okay, now I'm digressing, I apologize. Now starting from the bottom. So the first yarn that was in our yarn tasting was Isola by Berroco, and they gave us little, basically 20-gram balls of each of the yarns that we were tasting. So that was kind of equal to about 50 yards per ball, give or take, but most of them were over 50. Some of them were closer to 60 yards. So the first one is Isola, and we didn't get to choose the colors. So honestly, I'm not in love with this extremely saturated lavender, but it works in the gradient. They did try to at least put colors of the different balls together in a like color combination that would be nice. So this is Isola. It's supposedly a DK. I think they're maybe just like they're thin and thick yarns. A lot of these are thin and thick yarns, so it kind of varies a little bit. I would say it's slightly smaller than a DK. So I actually did adjust my needle size for this. I will let you know at the end. And so Isola is 38% cotton, 36% cellulose, and 26% rayon and viscose. And one skein of this traditionally is 284 yards. Originally in the yarn tasting, they did list the price of these yarns on the papers that we grade the yarns with, but I can't remember off the top of my head how much these cost, and I think it probably varies slightly depending on where you're at. Maybe, I don't know if they have a set standard, so I won't quote anything, but you can look this up. It's soft. I think once it gets washed, it will become softer like most plant fibers do. It did split quite a bit as I was knitting with it, which is not something I am a fan of. So just be forewarned that you might have something like that happening to you, but maybe I was knitting in a way that kind of was like loosening the twist on it and was causing it to be a little bit more likely to split. The second color here, which basically it goes from right here to about here and has multiple colors in it. That one is Vivo from Berroco again. DK as well, 100% cotton. It's very soft. I don't think this one split very much when I was working with it. It was quite nice. I enjoyed it. I also like the color way more. But as you can see, purple, I was trying to like kind of connect the purple with like some of the purple that was in here and this new colorway, and it even got a little darker here. And then it starts going to a lighter tone over here. So that's the second colorway, and all of these are connected with a Russian join. So once I block everything, then I'll trim off the extra threads here and there, but I had to do longer Russian joins just because most of these are plant fibers and they won't probably filt into each other. So you just want to do a little bit of a longer Russian join just to make sure it sticks together. The third color, which is this lovely yellow, and they didn't tell us the name of the colorways. They're just little balls with the name of the type of yarn it was and its contents. So this one is Pima Soft by Berroco again, DK and 100% cotton. Let me put this down. So this skinnier area right here, which is one solid color. This one I actually really loved working with. It is super soft. It has a really beautiful stitch definition, I think, and it'll just get softer and softer, and it wasn't splitting or doing anything like that. So, and I think it, from what I can remember, the cotton was a pretty affordable price. I think it might have been like less than $10 a ball of yarn. Could be wrong, but I thought it was affordable, at least for me. And in this one, there's about 124 yards in a standard ball. In the Vivo before that, there's about 317 yards in a ball of yarn for that one. Now the next one we have, which is kind of this darker, kind of hard to tell right here, this kind of darker purple with some maroon colors or like rose, antique rose in it right here. That one is Meraki, I think. I'll put, as you can see, all the names are kind of floating up over here. But also Berroco, DK, 71% cotton, 24% hemp, and 5% polyester. And this one, I don't think it really split either, which was good. This is quite a while ago. Oh my goodness. Sorry. This is not, I skipped a color. I am so sorry. The one that I was just referring to, that's going to be Summer Sesame. But we're going to go back one because there's such similar colors. You can kind of see the slight contrast here, but there's like your Pima Soft, and then there's like this slightly darker color right here. This guy right here, which is like just a little bit of like regular garter stitch after this lace bit here, and then it's right next to the Sesame, Summer Sesame. That one, sorry, is Meraki. And it is the same content, so it's 71% cotton, 24% hemp, and 5% polyester. This one did split a bit as well. I just find that things that have hemp in it or like are loosely spun together, they tend to split. So far it's like, I wouldn't say per se it's like soft, but I think with washing it will definitely be softer. Maybe it will bloom a bit. Maybe it'll be prettier. There's some like black flecks in here, and that's why I kind of paired it up next to the Summer Sesame, is because there's also black, there's like a black yarn and specks going through the Summer Sesame. So yeah, that one was the Meraki, and then this purple with the antique rose is the Summer Sesame. And it lists it as kind of like a worsted weight. I would say it's more of a DK weight based on like its comparison between the Meraki and the Sesame. They're both about the same size, honestly. So I would say it's more of a DK weight than a worsted weight. And this one is 47% cotton, 44% acrylic, and 9% nylon polyamide. This one has about 295 yards in a ball, and then the Meraki is 131 yards in a ball. And then, as you see, as we're getting like wider on this shawl, of course the sections become smaller and smaller because I only had about 50 yards per each of these colors. So the next one that got introduced during one of the lace sections right here. Let's go. Let me just flip my notes a little bit. Okay. This fun peppery one, which is more like a blue with dark blues. There's some antique rose in there. There's whites. Let me go a little closer. This guy right here. This one is called Spree. Berroco again. DK, and it has, this is the only one that had some wool content in it. So this one was 44% cotton and 56% wool, and there's 142 yards per ball. I really like it because it does have some wool qualities to it. Also, I think it helped out because this is a part of the lace where I messed up and I had to rip it out like 2 to 3 times because I was trying to figure out where I had messed up, and then when I figured it out, I accidentally dropped a stitch on top of it when I was going back to fix it, so I had to rip out even further down and like knit it back up. So I ripped out this section alone like 3 to 5 times, and honestly, like, it held up pretty darn well. Splitting wise, like, because you can see little strands, little threads of cotton going through it. But oddly enough, I didn't really have too much of an issue reknitting things, even after having undone them and redone them and messing with all the twist in that yarn. It held up pretty well to it. I really like it. It's nice and soft and squishy. I think it'll have a little bit more elasticity, of course, because of the wool factor, but there's also quite a bit of cotton in there just to help keep its structure. So there was that one, and I believe I said it had really good stitch definition. I think it would be even better if I went smaller, but I didn't want to go too small on the needles because I still want to have a nice drape with all these plant fibers. All right, and then the last yarn being used in this shawl, and I still have, a small hank of this. This should get me through the end of the last bit of lace and then casting off. This one is not Berroco. This is the yarn that I won when they do giveaways during the yarn tasting, and I actually kind of chose it because I wanted to kind of pair it with all these other yarns that were being used in the shawl. So I was like, okay, this color I think would look good with my colorways. And I'll just end my shawl with this. And this is Bamboo Cotton, and it's by King Cole. I believe it's a DK weight. I looked up the yarn on Ravelry, and I guess they also have a fingering weight of like this kind of the same material. The percentages just vary by like 1 or 2 percentages, but it's still cotton and bamboo or rayon from bamboo based yarn. So this is a 50-50 blend of both the cotton and the bamboo. And then these balls usually have 252 yards in it. Very nice and soft. I think my only problem with it, and it might have been due to my fault, is because I rushed and joined all of these. So when I was knitting, when I knit, do the knit side with this yarn, it tightens up the twist, which is nice. But then when I purl, it loosens up that twist, so then it becomes a little bit more like relaxed, and just like not a tight yarn, as you can see. And so sometimes when I'm doing like knit twos togethers or other things like that, it's more easily splits, and that annoys me. I'm so close to being done though. But other than that, really nice fabric. I'm pretty sure if I maybe went from it the other way, hopefully it wouldn't be loosening up as much with its twist. But yeah, so I'm hoping to get done with this soon. It's just that also, you know, October is Socktober, and now that I've started making socks, very basic socks, I was like, oh, I need to get some socks done during Socktober. So it's like kind of this fight between getting the shawl done, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I've had to rip a couple rows out here too in this lace, and I'm getting tired of it. Getting the shawl done, or doing some socks and actually being like, yes, I got at least a pair of socks done during Socktober. Another goal, a loose goal that I kind of set for myself, is learning like a bit traditional like heel flap / gusset, because right now I'm just doing tubular socks, and I just put in afterthought heels and toes, and it's been super simple. But I do want to like further my knowledge in knitting socks and do like basic traditional flaps, or like maybe change it up to make sure I can like adjust the heel that I want for the yarn to make sure it's like nice and sturdy. But yeah, it's been a fight for that. But overall, I really like how the colorway went. I think it's fun. It shouldn't be too hot, which is nice, especially since I'm from the Southwest. And you know, once it's all blocked up, then I can definitely cut off those extra bits and tags. But overall, I think it's kind of a fun, cute project. So if you ever go to a yarn tasting and you have some fun little bits of that like fiber that look really good together, I would suggest, you know, throwing it into a shawl and just like having one extra ball of yarn to help you get through the rest of it. Because I think with all my samplers, I think I had about 300 yards just from these little 50-ish yard balls. So I think you could find a pattern that will work for you. So all this was in the stash. Didn't have to pay a darn thing for it, which is super nice, and I think it's going to be super cute once it's done. So that is something I'm still working on. Hopefully I'll be done with it soon. And then, like I said, I casted on some socks for Socktober. These ones will be gifts. Actually, when I was in England, we went to go visit a friend for a couple of days, and she drove us all around the Cotswolds and like all these little towns and stuff like that. And of course, I was, besides seeing some of the cathedrals and other sites, I also was looking for yarn shops. So we did hit a few, and I did end up making purchases and stuff like that. But I will get into that after this really quick. But one of the purchases was this yarn, because I said, oh, I will make you socks. You've been like doing like such an amazing thing for us, like taking us places, and I just want to like give you a gift of something hand knitted, because I know she appreciates it. I've knit a sweater for her. I was like, I'll make you socks. Like, you know, it's cold, it's wet here. I think you'll enjoy some socks. And so she chose out her own yarn for it, and it's kind of hilarious because originally I was eyeing this colorway at the shop, but I was like, I already have socks that are very similar, like autumnal colors to this colorway, so I'm not gonna get it. And then she chose it, so I was like, awesome. They're not gonna be mine, but I at least get to knit with it and have fun with it. And so this, I'm doing tubular socks again. I'm just doing a basic like vanilla sock. So just basic cuff and then stockinette stitch all the way down. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a contrasting color, well, not per se contrasting, but like a different sock yarn for my heels and my toes on this. I'll show you those later. But this one is just the Everyday Sock pattern by Safiyyah Talley again. And this is from, it's the West Yorkshire Spinners, and it's their signature 4-ply. And so it's made out of 75% wool and 25% nylon. They do boast that 35% of the wool in it is blue Leicestershire wool. So they pride themselves in that it's all been reared, sheared, and spun in Great Britain. Actually really like, it's not too rustic. It's just like the perfect amount of like slight fuzz or halo. The colorways are fun. The striping on there is kind of fun. And in this one skein, there's about 437 yards. I believe it's a sock weight because it was on a sock tower, just for like what you would use for socks. So I'm pretty sure it is a sock weight. It looks like it. I am using size 0 needles. This is the first time using the 9-inch Chago needles for a project, size 0. When I first was casting on and doing the cuff with like a ribbing, like the 1x1 ribbing, I was like, who the heck uses this small of a needle? Because it was just tedious up in this area when I was first getting going. But now that I'm on the stockinette stitches, I mean, like, I started this last Saturday and I'm already like close to where I need a break for the second sock, honestly. So I actually really like these. I mean, I still need to do socks on double pointed needles. I did finish a pair of socks on double pointed needles because the needle I was using itself broke. Like the wire itself broke because I just didn't have a long enough wire and I was putting too much stress on it. So I do want to try knitting socks with double pointed needles and see how I like it, so that way I can do a comparison of all the different ways. But maybe if I was going to use these needles, maybe I would cast on with double pointed needles and then transfer over to this, maybe, or, you know, I'll probably be lazy and just continue to cast on these and just be like, oh my gosh, as I'm working on that part of the sock. But really enjoying it. Like I said, really nice stitch definition, fun colorways. They definitely had more colorways that, you know, now that I'm back home, I'm like, dang, I wish I could have bought a few more of those because they probably would have been fun now that I've seen them knitted up. But you know, I didn't because I only had so much room in my luggage. So that's the other project I am working on right now. So now we're going to go into the acquisitions of my trip and a little afterwards. So on our first stop in England, we took a train to Bath. We stayed in Bath for a couple of days and I was able to visit a few yarn shops there. I do not have pictures of these yarn shops because I was buying yarn and I completely forgot to take pictures of them. But if you look them up on Google, they do have some lovely pictures of those shops inside and out. So that will give you a good reference as to kind of what it looks like. Also, especially in Bath, a lot of the buildings, you know, they have small rooms, so the shops are extremely small, one-room shops, easy to kind of just get a good glimpse of what everything is going on in there. So for the first shop I went to, it was called Wool, and they had like one, which I regret, again, some regrets on this trip. They did have one person that died specifically in Bath, but they're very pastel-y colorways, and I was like, you know, I already have yarn that's very similar to this color. The ones that are like at least drawing me in, I already had yarn at home that was very similar to the color, so I passed on them. But then I didn't really see at the other yarn shop any yarn that was dyed locally either. So I was like, okay, missed out. But I did buy one skein of yarn. It is not a hand-dyed yarn. It's by Rowan yarn company. I think they're made in Romania. But they did just come out with the Rowan sock. So these are singles, but they do have 25% nylon in them, 75%, I think superwash. Yeah, superwash wool. And it was just kind of a fun gradient of blues. There's also only like maybe 5 different types of colorways for this sock yarn, I think. So the blue that they offer is this blue. They had some like coral, some greens, a gray, and then I think a black and a purple. I think those are like the colorways that they were offering. But I should have enough to do a pair of socks. I'm not sure. I'm making those pairs of socks, the socks I just showed you, I'm making them for, of course, the friend from England, but then I'm also thinking of doing some socks for her partner. So I'm trying to figure out what skein I want to use for her, and if I'm going to try a new sock pattern with her, or if I'm just going to choose another pattern from my tubular sock book and do that. But there's this one. It's 100 grams, which is about 437 yards total. So definitely plenty for a smaller woman's like regular socks or even calf socks, I would say. I've been able to do that. I'm like a size 8, I think, US, and even with calf socks, I think I had something close to this yardage, and I still have like a little ball left from it. So we could definitely do female socks or smaller with one ball of this. The next shop I went to was A Yarn Story, also in Bath. It was kind of funny because we went in and the woman's actually originally from Oregon, but now she's over in the UK and she has this cute little shop. She also has the most adorable Irish setter. So my sister was busy petting the dog while I was yarn shopping. But there she had more variety of like indie dyed fibers, which was really nice. So again, this one wasn't dyed in the UK, but it was dyed in the Netherlands, and thus I am going to be terrible at pronouncing all this. But this is from the Uschitita company, and of course I'll just spell everything up over here so that way you can look them up. They do have a website, and I will list that later. So this is also sock yarn. Basically every yarn that I've been buying on the trip was sock yarn because at least I could get one hank and for sure know that I would get a pair of socks out of it for at least me or some other small woman like myself if I was deciding to gift it. So this is their Merino sock base. It is 75% superwash Merino and 25% nylon. There's 464 yards in it. Again, it's made in the Netherlands by the company that I stated originally. It does have the colorway on here, however, it is handwritten and in cursive, and so I can't really tell exactly what it's saying. I don't know if this will focus. Maybe if I get myself out of it. Let me try. Yeah, it's not gonna focus. Sorry. But basically it's kind of a fun brown with like coppery speckles. There's a bit of purple in it too. And it's just like, I think this will make some really pretty socks for sure. Kind of reminds me of like figs, honestly. I love the color of figs, like traditional mission style figs or turkey figs. So yeah, hand dyed in the Netherlands, super cute. Second thing from Bath. Then we finally left Bath and we were going around the Cotswolds. And then I think we stopped in Salisbury. And we also went to the Salisbury Cathedral, very beautiful old cathedral. But there was a Franklin's in Salisbury, and I think it's like a small chain store. So there's quite a few around the London area in different towns and stuff. And they're kind of like a Joann's minus like some of the crafting. So they're mainly into fiber work. So they have sewing machines, fabric, cross stitch, yarn, basically like fiber related crafts, so no like framing or pumpkins or, you know, like crafting items, woodwork, anything like that. They don't have anything like that. But so the third shop I went to was Franklin's, and that's a place I actually did buy stuff from. And that's where I got the yarn that's in here that I showed you guys originally. The West Yorkshire Spinners Signature 4-ply. That was from there. And I think most of these are like kind of industrial yarns, not indie dyed. So you could probably order them if you wanted to. And then the other two skeins of yarns that I got there, because I think my sister wants some socks done in this yarn, it's Footsie 4-ply, and it's by King Cole, so the same company that is my last yarn on my shawl, King Cole, and made in Turkey. And this one has a 93% acrylic and 7% PBT composition. And there's 470 yards on it. I bought 2 balls of them because I liked the kiwi color, and then my sister was also gravitating towards the kiwi color. So we will both have socks in the kiwi color. It kind of reminds me of the Allegro sock, honestly, or the regular Allegro yarn that I have that I've used for my sister in the past. I believe that's also made in Turkey, but I don't think it's from King Cole. Correct me if I'm wrong. But it's very similar composition, and I think this will be fun. So I got 2 of those. One for my sister who doesn't like wool, and one for me because I like the color. And I want to see how it actually stands up to wear and tear. Okay, and then finally, the last place we went to, in this point we were in London for the last few days of our trip, and we went to Loop. And I do have some pictures of Loop and some of their products. So at the end of this video, I will be showing a little bit of that and maybe a few little snips and videos of the countryside as we drove through certain areas. So if you want to see a few pictures from England, feel free to stay till the end and watch those. But we went to Loop in London, the cutest shop in the world so far, I think. I really hope I can go back to London, and I hope that they're still there and I can visit them again, because the way that the shop is set up, it's really small, but like traditionally in smaller shops there might be like second stories because they kind of go vertically instead of horizontally in these buildings and in the older cities around the world. So Loop was there, and that whole entire neighborhood was also just super cute. There was a nice little Japanese tea shop like 200 feet away from it. Just a really nice vibe, easy to get to from the metro. Took the tube everywhere in that place, so very useful if you don't want to use taxis or anything. But my last 2 splurges were at Loop. And so the first skein that I got is from the company Life in the Long Grass, and it's done with their fine sock yarn base. It has this beautiful blues with lovely beigey brown colors and speckles. And so this is 460 yards, made out of 75% super merino and 25% nylon. And the colorway is Sparrow Song. So just a really nice colorway. We'll make some really beautiful socks. That's the first purchase that I did there. And then I was eyeing it and then I came back to it. I got this kind of fun sock set there. So this is by Hugh Loco. I'm not sure where they're based, but with the Life in the Long Grass, this is from Ireland. I guess they have a workshop in the countryside, and so they hand dye there. And that was nice that it at least was like kind of in the Isles, the British Isles. Hugh Loco, I'm not sure where they're based. I'm assuming they're probably somewhere in Europe, maybe even England, but don't quote me. You can look them up for yourself. But this is their Backyard Chicken collection, and I got the Golden Comet colorway. So this is done on their Fearless sock base, and it's 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, and there's 460 yards per 100 grams. This larger hank here is 100 grams, and then these mini skeins are 20 grams, so that's about 92 yards per the mini skeins. So I'm not sure, maybe I can get 2 socks out of this. 2 sock pairs at least out of this. We'll see. I'll probably have to do like shorter socks, like anklet socks maybe with these. But super cute colorway. Just love all the greens and the oranges in this larger set. And then I think these are definitely, of course, going to pair very well as heels and toes with these socks. So that is my last England acquisition. Then, right after England, I did get some yarn at my local yarn shop. They brought in some really nice solid colorways for the vintage sock by Berroco again. So I got some of these because I was thinking maybe I would use some of this for my friend's partner in England for her socks. I'm thinking of using this one for the heels and toes of the tubular one that I'm doing, just to like show you for comparison of colorway, autumnal colors, and maybe this fun one that's not quite any of those colors as its heels and toes. So the Berroco vintage sock is 50% to 52% acrylic, 40% wool, and 8% nylon. Made in Peru. There is 437 yards in this bundle, and I have 2 of them. I thought these looked really nice together, so I might do socks with that. And then I also got one more kind of non-wool sock yarn that maybe I'll make a pair of socks for my sister in, and it's the bamboo pop sock yarn. And so this one has 55% bamboo, 37% cotton, and 8% PBT. And there's about 492 yards in here, and it's just like this fun little ball of so many different colors, and I think it'll be fun. I saw some socks knitted up in them, and I thought the texture and the colorways were just super cute. It's kind of like, not quite a boucle yarn, but it's definitely like got some texture to it. So that will be fun to see how that knits up and everything. So those are the last of my yarn acquisitions. I do have a bag acquisition. It's not new, but it's new to me, and I think it's super cute. I have this thing about pumpkins. I just love pumpkins, and especially when they're like cute and fat, and then they're also like Halloween. But a friend at Knit and I had this bag, and I just was like, I want your bag. But kidding, but not kidding, but also kidding, because I just like, it's so cute. I love it. I wish I could have it. And then like the next meeting, she was like, actually, I don't really like using this bag. It's like too thick for me. It's not really my thing. I've got 3 more bags coming in the mail. It would make me happy if you would take this bag. And I was just like, are you kidding me? Oh my God, really? So I was like, wow, I was not expecting that. And that was super sweet of her. I'm extremely thankful because I just love it. It's so cute. It's got drawstrings on both sides, making it easy. There's even like a loop where you can hold it. There's also pockets on the inside. There's 3 pockets on the inside, so you can stash things like needles and your stitch markers and measuring tape on the side, and then plenty of room for your yarn and sock project. But I was being very stalkerish, and I was like, okay, there is actually a tag in this bag by the maker, and it's the Salty Mew, and they are on Etsy. And I went to go look at her bags, but she's taking a break right now. So unfortunately I couldn't see anything else that she was doing right now. I hope she comes back, but the bag is extremely well made. I love her color combinations. Super cute. So if you are into collecting bags, because that was one of the things I was hoping to get in England, was like another project bag, but honestly I did not see any project bags in England. It was weird. In any of the yarn shops. So I didn't get a project bag. But instead I got it gifted to me by a really good friend at knit night when I got home. So yes, very cute. Feel free to check them out on Etsy. And that is about it for my acquisitions. Oh wait, no, it's not it. I apologize. I've taken this whole entire thing onto my bed because there's just so much stuff I have. I think last time I talked to you guys, I talked about the winter yarn tasting for Berroco and how I won another bundle of yarn. Like I always seem to win packages of yarn during these things. And I didn't have it with me because it was still at the shop because I left early. But yeah, so here was the Berroco bundle that I got. I did have 2 of these ones originally, but I actually gifted one to a friend because it is a sock yarn. Super soft, super squishy. I do enjoy it. I chose to keep the one that had a little bit more speckle in it just because I did like the little bit more speckle. There's blues and pinks and stuff like that, and black in these speckles. And this is the Berroco Fika yarn, and it's 100% superwash wool. So I think they'll make some nice socks. Whatever I use for the heels and toes, I will maybe reinforce with some nylon. And there's 301 yards in this bundle here. Super soft. Actually, really like it. Originally, there's a booklet, a pattern booklet in here as well for like what you can use with the yarns for Fika, which are super cute. But of course, all those that I looked at, except for maybe the cap one, which I wasn't really too much into, would require me to buy more yarn. I was just like, I'm trying to not buy more yarn. London and England was the exception because that's like a foreign place that I want to have like mementos that I can remember by, and I want them to be useful and functional. So yeah, I probably would have had to buy more yarn just to do any of these projects. So I just decided, you know, one of these should be enough for socks. That'll be good. But then I also have the Berroco Ariel, which is 65% mohair and 35% silk. And they are very nice little bundles of mohair. There is, let's see, how much is in here? There is 284 yards in here. And I have this colorway, which is a number, but it's like a plum. It's kind of like a rustic plum color. And then I also have Ariel again, but in this lovely mustard color here. And the same composition. And so I do love mohair. I'll have to figure out what I'm going to do with them. But I at least know that Berroco now has some mohair that is quite lovely and has some cute colorways, and I can hold them into other projects that I do whenever I get around to knitting sweaters or maybe a fuzzy shawl again. Those will be nice. So those are the acquisitions I got from the yarn tasting. Super cute. Okay. Last but not least, some things I'm thinking about for the future for knitting. Some stuff I've been like eyeing a bit. I have been eyeing the slip knit socks by Yarnspirations Design Studio. I do believe that that sock pattern is free. It looked really cute. That might be a sock pattern that I try for Riga, Jen's partner. in England, and they do have some tutorials as well that I saw like on Ravelry that you could go to for help with the sock as well. I guess they also have a crocheted version, so if you're into crochet and you like that sock pattern, there is a crochet version of it. Another pattern I'm looking at is the White Socks by Crazy Sock Lady Designs. It's got a fun zigzag pattern, as you can see up here. And those look pretty simple as well, because I've done kind of like a zigzag pattern before with my first pair of socks, and I believe that's also free. And of course I showed the Aliso Creek socks up here by Very Busy Monkey. That's something that I still want to do. I bought the pattern for it. I just want to get more familiar with a traditional heel and gusset formation on socks before I try that, because that one also has cabling and purling and other things, and so I just want to be sure I'm a little bit more confident on some of the compositions of socks in general before I add all the craziness together to get a cute pair of socks. And then originally I thought I wasn't really into shawl knitting. That's not usually the thing that I want to do. I like doing sweaters, I enjoy doing socks, mainly sweaters, but honestly in the Southwest I do not need more sweaters, so that's why I'm going into the sock realm. But once I started getting knitting on my shawl pattern that I have here, I actually quite enjoyed it, so maybe I might do the Nakia Infinity scarf by Jeff Giles. I think it's Jeff Giles. But I've been eyeing that since the Black Panther, the first movie, came out, and I love it, and I do have yarn for it. I don't know if I've kept all the yarn for it, because this has been years ago, as you know, when the movie came out. But I think I have almost all the yarn for it. If not, I can buy yarn to improvise to go into it. And I'm kind of trying to work on colorways that are similar to what you saw in the picture. There's greens, golds, things like that in this yarn. So maybe I might finally get to casting that on, but I'll probably be doing the socks first, honestly. Those are my plans for future projects. Let me know what you guys are working on. If you guys have any advice for sock patterns that have like a really simple written out pattern for like traditional heels and stuff like that, because I'm just used to doing afterthought heels and toes. So anything to help me on my journey to becoming a crazy sock lady would be very much appreciated. Of course, what are you guys working on? And hoping everybody's doing good, staying safe out there. And I think the last thing update wise is my quilts. And if you don't want to listen to quilt stuff, completely avoid this, feel free to tune out. If you stayed this long, that's amazing. You are an amazing person. Thank you for supporting my channel. If you haven't subscribed already, please do like and subscribe and comment, just so that I know what people are interested in talking about next and things like that. But without further ado, here's a little bit on my quilting project that I'm trying to do currently. Alright, so last time I talked to you about the quilt, I had these blocks finished, which is good. This side is up. Just got to remember that when I start piecing them together. And then I was starting to work on this second block. So I have gotten the tree part all sewn up. Today I am actually taking a lesson on how to paper piece the star that's supposed to go up here. So that is one of the last things that I kind of have to do, is get the stars put together. Then I can sew their side fabrics, these two pieces, on either side of that star and piece it to the top of that. And then I just got to cut out a few more things, and we'll have kind of like a nice, there's like a nice little strip border that goes on this side and that side of this block to finish it off, to make sure it's about the same size as this guy right here. So that's basically what I'm working on. Once these blocks are finished, then I can piece the quilt top together, do the borders, and then it can be shipped off for quilting. So I am definitely closer, but there's still quite a bit to do. So just a little stressed out about it. But, I did talk to my quilter, and he said they should be able to get me in for an edge to edge, no problem, before Christmas, as long as I can kind of deliver it when I said I was hoping to deliver it. So, yeah, so that will help take a little bit of ease or nerves out of me for right now. So that's about it for my quilts. And without further ado, as I promised, here are some lovely clips of the English countryside and yarn shop. Thank you again so much for watching. And as I said before, if you like this, please like and subscribe. And I hope to see you guys in another podcast update.